Hey everybody, my name's Kris Amerikos and welcome to another video. This video is about another advanced topic. And the topic today is more is less. Probably you've heard people say the phrase less is more. And this can be very confusing because most people think that it's not true. Right? It doesn't really make sense when we say less is more. If you have less, then how can you also have more, right? They're opposites. But in today's video, I'm going to explain how more is really less and how that affects us when we're learning English, teaching English, and most importantly, speaking and communicating in English. So first of all, let's look at what people usually believe. We can call this conventional wisdom. And conventional wisdom tells us that this phrase, less is more, is not really true. It's just a catchy phrase. It just sounds good. But we understand that if I have 5 apples and John has 10 apples, that I do not have more apples than John, right? So on the simple basis of logic, this is not true. And less is not more. Now, we could get into a different discussion about whether or not more is better, right? We could say less is better or more is better. That's a different discussion. So really what we're talking about when we say less is more is people are saying that you should focus on the quality of things instead of the quantity. Quality over quantity. So they're saying if you have less, that maybe you care about it more. They're saying if you have less, then maybe these things are better because you need to take care of them. For example, a person who has less clothes usually takes better care of their clothes than someone who has more clothes. Because if you have a lot of something, its value goes down, right? This is basic economics, supply and demand. If we have a lot of something, we have a high supply, and we have an average demand, just like everyone, if everyone has the same demand for this, then the value is going to go down when we have more. So in this case, yes, less might be higher quality, and more might mean that it's less valuable. But if we move away from this general idea that people are familiar with, the idea that people usually think about when we talk about this topic, then we can look at something else. We can look at how today in our world, most people think that they need to have more and they need to do more. You know, people think that you need to have more money. They think that you need to have more followers on social media. They think that you need to have more posts, more content, right? You need to have more friends. You need to have more connections. And so people are always looking for a way, in general, to increase what they have, to have more. They're also trying to do more. They think that if they can achieve more things, then this will be better for them. Right? They shouldn't just be great in one area. They should be great in many areas. And we can see how people sometimes become frustrated because of this. And it's not only about achievements. It's about everyday life. It's about things that people usually do. For example, if you have the chance to go to 5 music concerts, then most people will try to go to all 5. But some people will only try to go to 1. They will say, I don't have enough time for that. I need more time, right? I don't have enough time for that, so I'm going to choose 1, the one that I like the most, the best of the 5. And here again, we can see this dynamic that if we try to have more, then maybe the experience will be less. However, most people today don't think of it like that. They have so much stimulation from social media and from the internet and from the news. They see information and they have offers everywhere and they try to do everything. And we even have a special term nowadays, FOMO, fear of missing out, right? The fear of missing out, the fear of missing an opportunity or a chance to do something or have something. And we can see that this makes people want to do things or try to do things more than maybe they need to do it. So another example of this is about physical objects. And this is where people usually haven't thought completely about how it affects them. When you have many physical objects or things in a room, then those things steal your attention and your energy. Because maybe you don't focus on them, but they exist in this space. And that means that you have less space because you have more objects taking the space, occupying the space. So many times when we see that someone is very frustrated or they can't focus or they feel tired, we can see that they have a lot of objects, ideas, or projects that are taking their energy. There's a lot of things in their life that cause them to not be able to focus. And here is where we can really see that more is less. Because when you have many objects, physical things in your space and all around you, especially if they're not organized, which means they take up more space than they should. When this happens, people get distracted. It's hard to focus. It's hard to pay attention. And it's amazing how you can have a completely new mindset and new focus if you just clean your workspace or if you organize your room. And this is a great example of how having more things in a small place is bad for you. It creates less focus for you. Now, we could argue that, well, you just need more space, right? So get more stuff, get more space, problem solved. But it doesn't really work like that because you won't use all of this space as frequently or as often as necessary, or as someone who lives in just a smaller space might use it. And this means that you're going to have a lot of empty space where you don't go there often, and you're going to feel responsible for it. So even an empty space that is within your domain or within your territory can steal away your attention and your focus. Now, let's turn this topic and point it to the topic of language learning and language teaching and language speaking. And I have a question for everyone who's watching. I know that some teachers watch these videos that I post and some students watch these videos. And my big question for you is this: is it possible that knowing more words makes it harder for you to communicate internationally? What do you think? Is it harder for you to speak with different people around the world when you know more words? Now, your first answer to this question is probably absolutely not, Kris. When you know more words, it's easier for you to communicate. However, I've seen that there's a limit to how useful this is. You see, people in the United States, they learn different high-level words, and people in the UK, they learn different high-level words. They learn different types of slang. They have different subculture groups, and there are different accents that produce different ranges of sounds that they're familiar with. So by knowing more of these sounds and knowing more of these words, they now have a bigger option of words and sounds to choose from. Now, with sounds, it usually doesn't affect people so much because you have your sounds that you associate with your identity and who you are. And this creates your accent. It's one of the main contributing factors to the accent that you have, your experience from the past and who you decide that you are, so that you can say that these sounds are part of my identity. But what about words? Many people also associate types of words and a level of vocabulary with who they are. I've seen it happen so many times when a native speaking teacher goes to have a conversation with someone from another country, and they use many high-level words because they think they need to demonstrate how smart they are. And I see this with non-native teachers too, especially non-native teachers who are very fluent in English. And that's surprising because you would think that they would learn that this is part of fluency. But many of them have a high level of English, and they try to demonstrate that they have a high level by using high level words. Now, a person who's a teacher probably understands that students and regular people who are in different parts of the world, they may have studied some English, but they probably have a lower level of English, pre-intermediate, intermediate, and they're not familiar with a lot of high level words. If they have a vocabulary of 2,000 English words and they meet a native speaker or a high level non-native speaker who has a vocabulary of 10,000 words, then there's 8,000 words that this person might say that they will not understand. And isn't it the job of the more fluent person to change their level of speaking, to level down, and to make themselves more understood? Isn't that what fluency and communication is about? It doesn't mean that you need to teach them all of those 8,000 words that you know more than them. It means that you need to speak more simply. So that's my question for you. Is it possible that when you know more words, it's actually harder for you to speak with people around the world who have a lower level? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Or you can also just start this discussion by sharing this video somewhere else, and you can let me know how it goes. Now, I have a second question for you too. The second question today is it possible to simplify English so that we can make it more understandable for people all around the world, for a larger number of people? What do you think? Should we simplify English so that it's easier for people to use? Let me give you one example of how this might work. In English, when we're learning the present simple verb tense, the verbs don't really change. In other languages, every person has a different verb ending, right? A different verb conjugation. When we say I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, all of them have a different verb ending in most languages. But in English, it doesn't change, right? I run, you run, we run, you run, they run, but he, she, it runs. We call this third person S. And this third person S rule doesn't really add anything. It doesn't make the language more interesting or more beautiful. It doesn't really change how we understand the language, because if you make a mistake and you say he run, she run, then people can still understand you. So why do we add this S? It's just something that was left from the past. And we've changed the endings of other words, but not this. So what would happen if we made a rule and we said, we don't need to use third person s anymore because this makes English more difficult and it isn't necessary for people to understand you and isn't understanding why we're using the language in the first place. So what do you think? Can we and should we simplify English so that more people can understand it around the world? Get rid of all of those rules that are unnecessary. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you press like, press subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.